Well, like I said, herbalism saved my life. I was empowered. It gave me answers to questions that I had about my body and health. But then developing the relationship with the land and beginning to really go out and see them grow, it put me in a rhythm that I was missing before.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today, I'm really excited to have on Lottie Spady. Welcome to the show, Lottie.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. I know last time we hung out was at the Great Lakes Herb Faire, which we'll get to hang out there again next month, but we'll talk about that here in a few. First, I'd like to get to know Lottie a bit more. How did you get into this whole herbalism thing?
Well, it is a long story, but the short version is I had taken a community class, which I thought was pretty interesting. And right after that, my whole life just like imploded. I got laid off. Just so many things happened. And I just really was like, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna go study this herbalism thing. I didn't know anything about, I knew a little bit about, I had a personal desire to kind of be less into like pharmaceuticals and things like that, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I took Jim McDonald's class as my first toe dip. I was like,
wow,
okay. That might have been a bit of a dive, but yeah, it was really coming on the heels of some much needed self-healing and self-care. So, and it's really made the difference in my life.
So when you say you took a class with Jim McDonald, was that like a weekend class or did you take his full-on apprenticeship?
I took the spring intensive.
Wow.
And it was funny because, like I said, I had gotten laid off. I didn't know how I was going to do this. I just sort of put it out to the universe, like, I'm doing this. And I looked at the cost and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And it's just the stars aligned. Like folks that had heard I was going through major transition were like, I heard you were trying to do something and go somewhere. So here's some, money or I support you or, just everything just came together. Yep. And I ended up going to the intensive 1 weekend a month for 8 months. And like I said, it was exhausting, but it really was what I needed at the time to like sink myself really fully into something. Yeah. And he's such a wealth of information and such a rich teacher that it just really came at the right time.
I love Jim, and it would be awesome to take his course at some point. What was that intensive like? Did you have to drive very far? And like you said, it was over the course of a weekends. Was there like, say, field study as well as like in class medicine making and whatnot?
So it was set up as lecture at on site in a class situation, as well as lecture in park situation. So we would get there I was driving from Detroit. It was in White Lake, Michigan. That is about a 45-minute drive, and I was not familiar with the area at all. We would Saturday all day, 9 to 5.
Wow.
We would listen, and we didn't do medicine making. It really was note taking and really comprehensive overview of whatever body system and the herbs that would go along with that. And on the second day, it was always offsite at a park, a local park, and we would be a hike like again 9 to about we'd maybe leave a little earlier, like 4 or 5, but it was all day. It was all day. So one of the classmates put in our chat if anyone needed some place to stay, that they could stay with her. And I was like, are there hotels in White Lake, Michigan? I don't know. I don't know. So I stayed with her. which is a really interesting story. I stayed with her each of those weekends, and that worked out really good because she also is a homesteader, herbalist, artist, beekeeper, all the things that I like wanted to be. So this was really exposing me to dreams that I had had for a long time, you know, that I had put like on my vision boards.
Totally.
Like this was like the universe working some stuff.
Love that.
Yes. So.
Well, you said it was an interesting story. Do you want to share it?
Oh, I can share a little bit of
Sure.
it. Just to put it, do you know Dana Driscoll?
No.
Okay, so she's an
I don't think so.
herbalist, an awesome herbalist, and that's whose house I was staying at.
Okay.
She currently lives in Pennsylvania. And I ended up buying her house. So that's the house that I stayed at. I met her through the class. I came out here and was like, why do I feel so oddly at home here? This is everything I've ever wanted. I had no plans of moving. And it happened a few years later, you know, it wasn't right then and there, but it truly was an example. I feel like I was really getting to know myself again on a much deeper level and being able to listen to those deep, that good guidance that sometimes we kind of override, you know?
Absolutely.
So I ended up, so I've always wanted a homestead. I always wanted a farm. I didn't know I was going to be a herbalist doing it. I thought I was going to have some cows, but I quickly realized that was not what I wanted to do. So yep, all these dots, you know, like I said, after a really tragic and traumatic start, ended up being the best. I mean, saved my life. I can honestly say that this journey has been one of life. I mean, I'm gonna get all
no,
but
feel
for
you.
real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't live in Detroit anymore then, because I haven't mentioned this yet, but you have something called Earth Seed Detroit, which I want to get more into, but now you're kind of on the outskirts. You're living more of that homestead lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm about 45 minutes to an hour from Detroit. So that took some getting used to. I'm a city mouse. You know, we romanticize all this, you know, I'm going to live off the land and I'm going to go out here. And I was like, you know what? It's dark out here. Like, hold on. What are we doing? I was like, what do you mean well water? What's that noise? You know, I mean, it just took me so long to get acclimated and to not be afraid. I'm really thankful for my dog. I have a really big dog that made this possible, because I was like, okay, you know, he's got me. He's a Labrador and Shepherd mix. So I'm thankful, but it took a lot of getting used to.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you had Jim. Did you have any other, say, herb mentors?
Yes, I'm always taking classes. I really feel I'm best as an eternal student. I'm not really good when I think I'm done with anything. I went to Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine for one of their online intensive, lengthy classes. I've taken classes with The Human Path with Sam Kaufman. Absolutely. Because survivalism was another big piece. And when we talk about Earthseed Detroit, I can tie that in.
Sure.
Took some classes through that school that I really want, and I still want to deepen that a bit more. I went to Costa Rica and took a nice set of classes with Molly Meehan and her. It was the Ylang Ylang retreat, which was amazing. And I met people there that I'm still very close to. And went to Ireland also so I try to get around. I just really feel like I'm never going to be done. I'm currently taking a course, and I just started, and I don't remember the herbalist name, but it's on PTSD and herbalism. And that's a pretty intensive course. So I'm always going to be taking classes for sure.
It wasn't Dr. Elizabeth Guthrie, was it, with the PTSD stuff?
No,
Oh,
no, I can find the name.
Sure.
But if it might come to me. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it right now.
What incredible mentors. And, you know, I've got Sam Kaufman on the schedule to be on the Herbalist Hour. Juliet Blankspore is going to be on soon. And yeah, we just had Molly Meehan on. So yeah, you were really in some good company. We talked about the Lang Lang herb gathering. That sounded like an awesome event.
Mm-hmm. I felt it truly was one of the first times I had been surrounded by so many herbalists of color too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, that is one dynamic of, it's changing, but, I started studying like 9 years ago.
Sure.
And it's gotten a lot more diverse and inclusive, but that was one of the first, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to this. Yeah. So it was great, except the howler monkeys. It scared me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You want to hear something creepy when you wake up in the morning, have some howler monkeys. Like, I thought it was a Jurassic Park. I was like, what is that? But it was great.
Sure. Well, I was going to recommend the Chesapeake Herb Gathering as well, because that was one of the first events that I went to where there was a lot of, say, people of color. And then, it's also a Molly Meehan event, but that's going to be every other year now in September outside of Washington, D.C. But that's an awesome event as well, run by Molly Meehan. But
I want to go to that. That's actually where I was going to go. Yeah. And I think I missed it. And that's how I ended up going to the Ylang Ylang one. So it's on my list for sure.
Highly recommended. Well, you posted something on your Instagram quasi recently, I want to say. In fact, it might have even been from your TikTok, but you were basically walking through the tea aisle and you said, start with where you are was the caption. And I just thought that would be a really fun thing for you to kind of talk about and kind of encourage, say, more beginning herbalists that might be listening to. So can you kind of talk to us about start with where you are?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that great segue.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, I just got inspired to do that TikTok because I think I sometimes forget, like I teach a lot of classes and I teach a lot of 101 classes, but I even think that my idea of 101 has become still not very advanced, but just far away maybe from what the everyday person is doing. Or, folks that say, oh, I want to learn herbalism. And, I jump right in with, like, oh, here's a tincture and I crafted it myself. And I went outside and pulled this up and they like it, they make notes. But when I would go back later or run into them, I'm like, so are you doing it? Like, are you really doing it? And I remember my own self feeling like, yeah, but I don't really know how to do this. Like, I have a lot of information in front of me, but when you start getting into like, where do I go buy herbs and where do I go get this? And how do I know? So the tea aisle video just reminded me of way back in the day when before I knew I was going to be a herbalist, but when I had my little Jethro Kloss Back to Eden book that I had got.
Classic.
That was my first book, like as a pretty early college years, and going to health food stores, right. And the tea that they would have, that was my introduction to doing something other than, prescription medicine, like Dong Quai tea for like my menstrual cramps, and looking at, just like with my kids, raising my kids and not wanting to, give them like all these over-the-counter things. So we did a lot of Vicks Vapor Rub, and we had a happy shirt. The happy shirt was just a sweatshirt, but whenever you were sick, you know how you need to put a layer between that Vicks and your clothes, so they could put the happy shirt on, which had an H on it, came from a thrift store, which I think was Target's, like Harvard, I don't know, but anyway. Sure. So just encouraging people that, you can really begin to shape your approach to your family's health in baby steps that can consist of, like I said, the tea aisle, looking at, some herbal teas like traditional medicinals or things like that, or from your grocery aisle, like learning how to make an onion, honey, garlic, lemon power syrup, or, what the powers of fresh ginger are, or cloves for a toothache, just, holding a clove between your teeth. And then gradually branching out from there. But I just don't want anyone to feel like they, aren't, I want to make it easy for them to like get in where you fit in. Okay. Like it's okay. You don't have to have taken all these classes or read all these books or gone to naturopathic school or whatever. Like you can do this. I just really want people to feel empowered that they can do it. So I think that's kind of what I mean by get in where you fit in. I didn't really have a herbal mentor as in my family. Like some people, have a grandmother's. I didn't have that. I think my parents were of the age where they were like, we're not doing that old fashioned stuff. Give us cans and give us, So I had to learn it all on my own. And there's nothing worse than getting into a group and feeling like you're just hanging on to the edges barely, like, what are they talking about? I don't, so to be welcoming, I think is my goal with that.
Yeah, I love that. And, as you were talking, it was kind of helping me reminisce back in my early beginning herbalist days. And at the time, it did seem very overwhelming to the point of frustration at times. Like, how am I supposed to know all this stuff? And now I'm actually kind of looking back at it fondly. I remember how excited I was to learn. But yeah, it was like, how am I supposed to absorb all of this information? So I'm telling you, dear listener, if you're a beginner herbalist, I'd say really hold on to the joy of the moment of being a beginner, because it is really exciting to be in that moment and and now you get to do all the fun stuff, the learning of the herbalism and whatnot. But I don't know if you have anything to say to that.
I appreciate that a lot, and I agree. I think sometimes, the way we're set up, we are always pushing for more. Yeah. And I kind of agree with you. Like it's been, I don't know if it's been the pandemic or just a time in my life where it's been like, let me circle back around, like pulling out my old notebooks and really believing that I have what it takes right here, because I'm like, oh, I don't know that. Oh, I didn't listen to that podcast. What do they mean? They're talking about something new.
Yes.
And you get to, I get to questioning, like, do I know anything? Like all of a sudden imposter syndrome. And I'm like, I don't know anything. So it's just, I love that. Like fondly looking back at, it's okay to be a beginner, and how sometimes it's more fun to be a beginner. The pressure is not as steep, not as hard on yourself sometimes. I don't know. Yeah,
absolutely. And perusing the organic tea aisle, it's actually fun to revisit for me now, because a lot of times the teas that I'll drink are just these mixtures of the herbs that I have in my house. And it's kind of fun to like go, look at the back of the box and see what ingredients they're using and whatnot. And as you say in the video, that's a good learning point. You could be like, well, why did they make that formulation and everything? And they did it for a reason. They've got professions, doing all that. So, well, thank you for sharing. I kind of want to transition into talking about the Great Lakes Herb Faire, which both you and I will be at. I'm super excited. As we were talking about pre-show, it's going to be the first event that I've attended, at least I want to say probably since 2019. So very excited to get back to an herbalism event. Highly recommend the Great Lakes Herb Faire. I just want to kind of start the convo with what are you most excited about for this event?
Oh, I am excited to being back with everybody. Like I've been going to the herb fair. I went to the first one, like the very first one. And I always felt like I called it my New Year. It felt like New Year's to me. Yeah. It felt like the reunion, people I may not see except for that event. So it meant so much to have a chance to be in the company of everyone, learning from everyone. I always felt really poured into and nurtured by the event. So I'm just looking forward to, I can just remember, I would just like skip across, skipping across all the grass and stuff, being so happy, just happy to be there. So I'm just really, like you said, haven't been to an in-person event in many years. So I'm looking most forward to being together again.
Oh yeah, and I could just picture now that one classroom that's like right on the lake. I want to say it's a lake, that outdoor classroom.
Yeah.
Love that. So from what I could tell from the website, by the way, dear listener, I don't want to make this sound like an advertisement for the Great Lakes Herb Faire. I'm pretty sure it's actually sold out, but if you are listening to this in the future, definitely check them out at Great Lakes Herb Faire, I think .org, and that's fair with an E. I'll leave a link in the podcast show notes. But from what I could tell, Lottie, you're teaching one class, and it is called Do-It-Yourself Community Health, Detroit Asthma and Environmental Justice Using Respiratory Herbs. And then in the description of the class, you say, well, I'm just going to ask you. So, Lottie, why is asthma an environmental justice issue? Are you willing to talk about that on the show?
For sure. So environmental justice in and of itself speaks to the way communities of color, poor communities, and are often situated right in these industrial corridors. There usually are issues around trash, dumping. We have trash imported to Detroit, like from other places, to be burned in the incinerator. The incinerator shut down a few years ago, but until then, Detroit was home to the second largest incinerator in the nation. And there's huge industrial corridors that run through Southwest Detroit, and by it being an international point as well. So environmental justice, there are other issues with water, land, and this is air quality. By it being situated where it is, particulate matter or the air quality itself contributes to a lot of respiratory distress, and asthma is still the number one reason for illness-related absence from school with children. And it also it's a really complex issue, but asthma has become something that is often blamed on the individual or the family. Like, are you clean? Are you being clean enough? Are you doing, what are you doing? When there are a lot of external impacts that create this environment where asthma is likely. Also, like trauma, like if you have experienced trauma, and poverty and violence are, it's not PTSD, it's just like SD, it's like, it's just like all the time.
Sure.
And your lungs, handle grief, they handle fear, the ability to breathe. So asthma is a huge issue for children and adults in Detroit. So over the past, this is the third year now, I've been teaching with a nonprofit called Keep Growing Detroit. And they're an urban farm, and they teach agriculture classes. And we teamed up to do growing a medicinal herb garden. And my focus is on respiratory herbs.
Thank you for sharing. So in that class at the Great Lakes Herb Faire, you're going to be kind of covering some herbs that could be beneficial for people with asthma then?
I will be going over herbs that are beneficial for people with asthma, and I'll bring some things to sample. And also, again, talking a little bit more in depth about why herbalism is an approach to environmental justice and community empowerment.
Very good. I'll have to try to make that class. So, so you talk about the environmental issues and asthma and all that, but then another piece of your work is, say, food justice. So I'm just kind of curious, can you tell us what food justice is? And you also mentioned on your website, food security. So can you kind of like define both and differentiate the two?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I mean it is all related, you know,
Sure.
when you peel back the onion of justice, all these justices, you know, like media justice, health, it's always the justice, right?
Totally.
But that was kind of how I entered through working at an environmental justice organization, and I got introduced to food justice through that work as I began to know more urban farmers that were trying to address the belief of food justice, which healthy food is a human right, is not a privilege. So the way things are set up, often, even though it's contradictory because so many of our illnesses are dietary related, and that goes with marketing and a lot of factors, but in order to eat healthy, often it comes down to access and affordability. And there's these illusions of choice. Like there may be 10 options, but you're only shown 5 all the time. Like I call it the urban compass rose, which is like McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell, like just pick 4 fast food restaurants that show up on every corner. And this is what I see all the time. And this is what is, you know, just really downloaded into me in a number of ways, social, cultural, you know. I don't even know what's going on over here at Trader Joe's or wherever, you know, and do I even have the means by which to get there? And can I afford to make these choices? So that's the injustice that food justice works to turn around. And food security addresses the fact that a number of families, like by the end of the month, depending on how your pay structure is set up, run out of food. Quite frankly, run out of, you know, have been food insecure, whether it's the fact that we're living one paycheck away from not just food insecurity, but, you know, homelessness, you know. So how can learning to grow your own food and challenging these systems of like corporate big agriculture and land ownership and the distribution of like technology and the means by which to grow your food, you know, those are that's the bigger picture, but just really like going back to start where you are, it's like I'm like tomato liberation. Like I'm just going to focus on growing tomatoes or lettuce, or just try to slowly remove myself from this system that I've been made to believe is the only way to go about getting my food, which I often come up short or sick from anyway.
So would you say what you're doing, a lot of what the work you're doing as an herbalist is trying to help battle, say, food injustice and whatnot? And a kind of in addition to that, how can the listener, say, help this whole situation?
I think that it is a means to challenge. Some of it could be through wild, you know, foraging and wild food, you know. I mean, there's some, you know, there's stigma. Yeah. There are things attached to foraging that again are rooted in privilege. Like you got to be a certain place where you're like, yeah, I'm going to go out here and choose to eat a weed. Whereas if your life has been structured in a way to where you're like, I'm not doing that. That's just further indication of how little I have, you know. Right. But I do think it is a way to, as a family, making your own medicine. Like you're not at the mercy of the medical industrial complex. You're not at the mercy of like what this person, we call them the white coats or the suits, you know, are telling you. And you're able to feel empowered that I am capable of taking care of my family. So I do feel that herbalism and wild food and growing your own food are all ways to, you know, empower a family or an individual to take care of themselves. And as far as a listener, like I encourage folks to, you know, develop a relationship with a local farm. getting to know your farmer, like even if they can't afford to be organic certified,
Sure.
many are growing using organic principles, and you can often harvest your herbs from there because they're like, you want these weeds? Like, yeah, I want those weeds, and those are good weeds.
Totally.
So that's one way I encourage folks to kind of get out there and try some stuff.
Well, I'll just mention it here. It's sort of a plug for something HerbRally's doing, but it's free. So there you go. But we do something called the Art of Frugal Nutrition. And this is basically a whole course where we continuously add new modules to it. And the whole idea is to teach the public how to eat nutritious foods on a budget. It's a huge passion of mine. For whatever reason, I've always really probably because of my own like experiences through childhood and whatnot, but I've always liked the idea of saving money, and nutrition has also been a big passion of mine for a long time. So yeah, we actually do have a module in there where it's a couple hours teaching you how to dumpster dive. And now and it's really interesting because you mentioned that, you know, going and wild harvesting might feel almost like a privilege type of thing. And dumpster diving could probably be viewed the same way. Oh, does that person actually need to go dumpster diving? They might be just doing it because it's fun or funny or something like that. But the goal of the Art of Frugal Nutrition really is to, if you're really trying to save money on food, we really want to teach people how to do that. So that's just dumpster diving was just one instance that I wanted to share. But yeah, so that's kind of how we're trying to help here at HerbRally. But yeah, thank you. I don't know if you have any follow-up thoughts or anything.
No, I think that's first of all, that's great. And I'm excited to like tap into that because I'm always, like I said, looking to bridge that gap between, I think access is huge, you know. I think access is huge, and the narratives are like, my degree background is in media production. So like the narrative creation and all unpacking that is so important, because I'm not going to get to the people I want to get to if I don't address, like you were saying, the stick, like about dumpster diving or foraging. Or even I had one of my friends recently tell me, she was like, you know, I used to be embarrassed when my dad would make that old tea from leaves. She's about 10 years older than me. Yeah. So, and he was making like sassafras tea or whatever. Wow. Yeah. And she was like, you know, and it's like the Wonder Bread concept, right? Like Wonder Bread had its heyday, and you didn't want like multi-grain seeded like peasant bread, you know. And it's hard, it was hard to like turn it around, and it's more of a again, privilege, like, you know, who's eating the multi-grain, who's eating these artisanal loaves, you know, now. So yeah, just addressing those narratives just up front, like having the conversations and developing the kinds of relationships where folks trust you enough to say, okay, Lottie, you want me to eat what? Okay, I'm gonna try it because you said try it. So yeah.
Well, you do have a whole list on your website. We won't go over it here, but for you listening, you go to, I want to say it's earthseeddetroit.com. Did I get that right? And then, yeah, just go to I want to say it's the food justice tab, but we'll leave a link in the show notes for that as well. Awesome. I'll leave a link to the Art of Frugal Nutrition again. And again, that's a free course and whatnot. So why don't we shift gears a little bit? And you said you would be willing to do this segment we're trying out called Giving Flowers. And basically, this is a segment where I'm asking the guest to just kind of give their flowers, so to speak, where they praise publicly who's been influential in either their life or their herbal path or whatnot. So who would you like to give your flowers to, Lottie?
I have many, many, many flowers, thankfully, that I could give, but there are a few that I would like to mention specifically. One of which goes back to how I did get started doing this in the first place. So I have a mentor, friend, sister, badass named Gwendolyn Winston. Gwendolyn Winston runs the Wisdom Institute in Detroit, and it's an organization that has always focused on women's empowerment, infant mortality, and has always done tremendous work. And she's been a ceaseless ally to and mentor and listening ear and shoulder to cry on since, I mean, I've known Gwen now for, I don't know, 15, maybe more, 15, 20 years maybe. So, but
Wow.
again, when I went through the transition, she was the person who said, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but you go do that.
Yep.
And I'm going to support you doing that. And when you're done, you bring that information back to the community because we need that. And I got my marching orders from Gwendolyn Winston to be an herbalist. I probably wouldn't be, you know what I mean? Like she tutted me on my way. I was like, well, no turning back now. And we still work together. We're currently working on Passing the Torch, Preserving the Flame. It's a grant that investigates and promotes the way women in particular do social justice work through art, storytelling, music, herbalism, and then we're going to do a ceremony where we actually pass the torch, like who are our younger torch bearers that, you know, who do we want to pass our torch to so that we're sure we're seeding the next generation. So Gwendolyn Winston gets my flower.
I love that. Go
the
for
other
it.
person would be Tawana Petty. Tawana Petty and I have worked together for a very long time. She's a poet, she's a mother, she's doing amazing work around digital justice, AI technology, our data, it's called our data bodies, just huge international. She's amazing and dedicated to making sure surveillance technologies and other things are not used to incriminate, incarcerate, and kill us and hurt us. She is the person who started the Petty Propolis Art Festival. She invited me to Idlewild, Michigan, and that was the first time I had been. I did not know what I was getting into, but she also supported my herbal journey with the same statement, like, I don't know what it is you're doing, but here, go do it. And, you know, since we went to Idlewild, we have grown into a whole endeavor where, you know, we're now working on some really fun and exciting projects there. And she's just good people, you know, good people. And I just appreciate her so much.
So Gwendolyn and Tawana, they must be really like just proud of you. What do they think about what you've become and what you've done so far?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think they are. I'm so proud of them. It's hard. We get into a little love fest. Like, no, you.
It's good to have friends like that.
Yeah, but they're supportive, and they let me know that they are pleased and inspired, and they keep keeping me going too. So for sure, yes. Very
cool. Well, I'll have to link to the Wisdom Institute in the show notes as well, and I'll try to get Tawana's link as well. She has one.
Petty Propolis. Her link is Petty Propolis.
Petty. Oh, thank you. Okay, awesome. All right. Well, thank you for giving flowers. I always love hearing those. It gives me a lot of I don't know, goosebumps and happy feels. So I appreciate that. Well, speaking of flowers, do you want to chat to the audience a little bit about why you love Goldenrod?
This is a story. So I think I chose that because also we just passed Lunasa, like on the Wheel of the Year. I'm trying to do more sacred living. And today it just came to me, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the song, The Golden Hour by Frankie Beverly and Mays, but
Can't say I am. Yeah.
Talks about the time of day when the sun is going down, you know, that golden hour.
Golden hour, yeah, totally. Amanda talks about it all the time as a photographer.
Yes. So I was feeling like this is the golden time of year, though, actually. It seems like to me warm and balmy, and I don't know. So Goldenrod came to mind, and it made me remember when I gained the utmost respect for Goldenrod. And so quite a few years back, me and some friends, Gwendolyn Winston was one of them. We had the good fortune to go to Sedona, Arizona for what people go to Sedona, Arizona for. We were like, vortexes and crystals. We're gonna be new people by the time we get back. So we went, crazy magical trip. We met a great guide who took us to this place called Shaman's Cave. I mean, we had to climb. I mean, I did not know we were going to be scaling rocks like this. We climbed up, had this amazing experience, came back down and walking along the path, and Lottie decides to fall. Like, I literally just stepped off the path, metaphor, and sat in a prickly pear cactus.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And this is a little graphic, but you know how you fall, you're going to break your fall like with your hand. I had on shorts. I broke the fall with my hand, and I was riddled up the whole entire side of my body with prickly pear thorns, which, if you do not know, they're long ones and they're short ones. And the short ones have little hooks, like it's made to go in and not come back out.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, oh my gosh is right. So they peel me up out of the prickly pear, and I'm like limping back to the car, and my poor friends are having to pull thorns out of my entire body. Like, I'm stripping down right in the parking lot because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And we went back to the guide's house. He had like some cannabis salve, and I put it all over there, whatever. Got back to our Airbnb. Literally, I had like impaled through like my baby finger with some of these. I had kava salve, I had goldenrod salve. So I was able to compare and contrast. And let me tell you what, goldenrod salve is a top tier pain and swelling and bruising and spasmodic. I mean, it was noticeably, it was the only thing that had, I mean, I had cannabis salve, kava.
Yeah.
And in the goldenrod, I mean, I didn't have swelling, I didn't have the bruising. And it was the only thing, like, because I think I probably went for kava first because, you know, you're thinking, I don't know, you know, reputation precedes. So,
Sure.
But the goldenrod, it came in on the scene like, I got you. And I have not stopped talking about it since. I use it in, I make like a little massage. Look at me. I make a little massage oil. This isn't even up on the site, but I made a goldenrod and dandelion flower, like massage oil. It's called Release, for like, you know, massaging. But yeah, so it was just one of those herbal moments. You know, I'm like, yeah, this stuff works. And then something like that happens. You're like, you know, this stuff works.
Yeah.
So that's why goldenrod will always, it just holds a special place in my heart. It came through. I think there were other elements going on, like I said, on that magical trip. But lowly goldenrod, like don't let its humbleness fool you, you know? So
I don't know if it's blooming where you're at yet or not, but it looks like it's just about to maybe start here in Wisconsin. But I wasn't too familiar with the plant. It doesn't grow very commonly in Oregon, at least from what I can remember, but it's everywhere here in Wisconsin. I really have kind of fallen in love with it, and it's in our backyard, and I'm super stoked for it to start blooming. So what a cool story. When you say you've been telling everybody about it, have you been talking to, say, other herbalists about it, and have they had like similar, you know, experiences with it?
No, as a matter of fact, well, I haven't told the story in a while. And I usually relate it when I'm doing a class. I'd have to think on that. You know, it's been a while, but one herbalist that I did recently tell this story to was not aware of its analgesic or, pain relieving, anti-inflammatory properties. She knew it more so as a tincture or a tea, and, its affinity for the sexual organs as well, and respiratory, but she did not know. So
there you go. Maybe that was one of the main reasons you had that trip, was to figure that out. So
maybe.
What a story. Awesome. Well, why don't we shift gears a little bit? So you're working to develop an herbal presence and exploring the history of healing plants in Idlewild, Michigan.
Yeah, so this goes back to, like I said, Tawana invited me up there. So Idlewild, Michigan is a historically African-American resort town. It was founded in 1912. And if you look at the history of it, a lot of the emphasis is on it as its entertainment mecca. I mean, like, everybody partied in Idlewild, and then your historic figures lived there also, like W.E.B. Du Bois and Madam C.J. Walker and Dr. Charles Chestnut, like so many people, Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Anyway, but one of the people I have the good fortune of being a friend with wrote a book called 100 Years of Sanctuary on the 100th year anniversary of Idlewild. And it really interviewed the regular everyday people about, but how does day-to-day life and how did you sustain yourself as a Black community? Like, being a resort town is different than being a year-round, or the community, the family aspects. And one page in that book specifically referred to Idlewild as a place where healers would congregate on Native American land, the curative properties of the air by the pines, how people would come up from the Gullah Geechee Islands and from Canada and from the Caribbean, and you had all these people there, like, talking about the same plant but using like different names, and that they would learn about the plants and then make medicine from it, and then they would share it with all these resort people that were partying all the time, I guess. But I was like, oh, that's why I'm here. Another aha moment, like, that's why I'm here, to continue this dot to dot. Like, I was like, there's got to be a name for this. I was like, I think it's ethnobotany. I was like, maybe that's what I'm going to be. But I got so excited to continue, or at least to try my best to bridge another gap between what happened then. So I'm working with a group. We purchased a house, collaboratively owned house that needs a lot of work, but it's called the Hive. The Hive stands for Healing, Innovative, Visionary Education. It used to stand for herbalism, but I was like, we can do more. We can do more than just herbalism for healing. And we want it to be a place where artists can come if they want to retreat. We have a workshop called like Finish That Manuscript. If you're a writer who wants to come up, I'm going to be working on herbal things. And hopefully I would love to do some collaborative things, like a materia medica that featured art if folks that wanted to come up and study the botany, and maybe poets who want to write about, like, how could I make this really reflective of the history of Idlewild? But this is like Idlewild 2.0, like that's what the people there even call it, like this resurgence and reinvestment in this community. So I'm very, very excited about that. Idlewild's about 2.5 hours away from where I live. So, it's more than a notion to just like run up there and back. But I'm getting more used to it. We're connecting with, you don't want to just parachute into a community and be like, this is what you need. This is what I'm going to do. So spending that time to get to know like the elderly population and maybe collect some recent stories, as well as make some things that can be soothing and helpful for them. And, because the year-round population is really small. There's still an influx during the summer months. But yeah, it's just, I just think it's another, I didn't know I'd be doing this, but I know I'm supposed to be doing this. So.
Yeah, I love that in your story. You seem to continuously follow your heart and good things happen. You said that there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the house. So I take it the Hive isn't necessarily launched yet, but do you have, like, say, a launch date for that?
So it is a sort of a phased
Okay.
process. It's suitable right now for outdoor classroom space.
Nice.
We have a great outdoor classroom space and a beautiful outdoor porch. So we're refurbishing the inside. So we're going to kind of do it on a gradual incline. We host an annual Petty Propolis Art Festival on Labor Day weekend. So this year, I think I'm going to do a plant identification walk and maybe like an herbal tea meet and greet, like outside, because we do want folks to like invest in the Hive, or if we get an angel benefactor, that would be great. To get to know, like, this is going to be a place where things are happening. And I think over the next year, we will rehab. The roof has to be done, but we're rehabbing the inside, and slowly it'll be 4 units. So, it's a upward slope though.
Yeah, seems well worth it. Where should people follow along? Is there like an Instagram page or a website?
There is, yes. The Hive Idlewild does have an Instagram page and a website, Hive Idlewild, on Facebook as well.
Sure.
I usually post. We're all
Okay.
posting different things.
Sure.
So yes, follow along.
Awesome.
Keep up on it.
Very good. Well, I'm excited to check it out. Awesome. Well, why don't we transition here? You were also pre-show, you were saying that you might want to talk about, say, exploring the use of herbs with adoptee trauma. So I'm really curious what you got for us there.
Yeah. So I think, like, in my own like reevaluation of all the journeys, but I just kept, so I'm an adoptee, and so that's my personal self-help, self-growth work. And I guess I'm learning, like, I needed to like niche down, like get into who you are. Like, that's the herbalism I'm supposed to do. I can learn all kinds of stuff, but what is my special sauce that I bring to the party, And I was like, oh, so I went to a writing retreat earlier this year, an adoptee writing retreat. And I had 4 lovely people that I've met, and we really bonded. And, I happened to bring some tea along, I guess, herbalist. Hey, I got a tea bag. And I was talking about herbs, and, gut health came up, and anxiety and trauma and all the things. And it just kind of evolved into this conversation, because I had been thinking about how could herbalism be used in healing around adoptee trauma, which is a big topic. But to put it in a nutshell, they're often deeply rooted residual effects of being separated from a birth parent and growing up without having the sort of biological blueprint or script of your family unit. Like, you don't know these things when you're in it, but you know something. As I got older, and it started really unpacking all this recently, I was like, oh, is that what it's called? But feelings of being an outsider, being not from that family or not from that community or not from the planet, like feeling like an outcast, not quite being able to get your bearings, stumbling around a bit in relationships, like making good, healthy connections. So in my own personal journey, of course, I leaned on herbs to help me out with certain things. And your basic, I won't say your basic, but like nervines, a lot of nervines, and like milky oats, calendula for grief, rose around loving energy, motherwort, I think, is one that's coming up for me a lot around not only physically healing the heart area, but the mother. I like the way motherwort has it's welcoming with its little hand-shaped leaves, but it also has some little prickly flowers. Like, you don't just come up in here any old kind of way. So I think it's good for boundaries. And I also worked with shooting star flower essence, which just in the limited research I've done was around bringing you back into yourself for when you are feeling disconnected. And so after having that experience with these women that we did the writing retreat with, and they really expressed an interest, they're like, we'll try anything that you give us, especially around gut health, since, that is the seat of, emotional disharmony and disease. So I've been encouraged to create some tea blends, and I want to do more study. That's why I signed up for the PTSD class, because I thought it would be helpful in, translating, between the herbs and adoptee trauma. So it's new, it's nascent stages. But I have plenty of friends who are either adoptive parents or are adoptees. Seems like there's a lot of interest around I want to hold space for adoptees to have a conversation and have the healing and have it be supported by herbs. So it's not so much like herbs for adoptees, but you know what I mean? It's just like blending all that I've learned about being healthy in your as an adoptee. And of course, herbs are going to be a part of my my protocol, my regimen for healing, self-healing. So it's new. I'm really excited about it, though.
Oh, I'm so excited for it too, Lottie. And I love that you said, or I love that your heart called you to niche down, so to speak. I think that's really great, say, quote unquote, herbal business advice. But besides the business aspect, you're providing such a service, or you're going to be, as you kind of develop this, to the people that are in the same realm as you. And you know what, just to be a little vulnerable here on the podcast, I was not adopted, but I have essentially no relationship with my biological mother who has passed. And there was like a lot of, say, abuse and stuff there. And so I'm always like, how do I use, herbs and herbalism to kind of help heal that wound? And so I'll just say I'm personally really excited for the work that you're going to be doing and what you uncover. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there that could really get a lot of healing from that. So really excited. I haven't mentioned this to the listener yet, but Lottie also has a great YouTube channel. And that's Earthseed Detroit as well. And I'm really hoping, Lottie, you start, maybe making some videos with some of the things that you uncover. No pressure, but yeah, where do you think this work's going to take you? Do you think you're going to be, like, say, writing about it, or what are you going to be doing?
I have been doing some writing, and I definitely want to do writing. The land that I'm on now, I really would like to host some in-person retreats, whether they're day retreats or overnight camping or weekend retreats for adoptees to gather and get down into it. I'd like to do some of that work in Idlewild as well. Like, I think that'll be a great weekend getaway. But I definitely want to write. I want to keep track of all this, because I've been tracking my own search for biological family, the kind of traditional starts with an ancestry DNA kit. So,
right.
That whole piece.
Yeah.
But there's, just, like I said, tying everything I've got, everything I've experienced, and knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do. So I definitely hope a book or maybe just a series of, I don't know. I don't want to put, I'm not going to say a book, but I do want to write about it, because I think that it's important, and writing is therapeutic for me also. Yeah. So yeah.
I love it. Well, like I said, I'm really excited to see the progress, and that it is new for you, but just maybe some YouTube videos.
I do some. I'd like to do book review videos. So I've done a few on like adoptee, books that I feel are great resources if folks want to start that unpacking process. So it will find it. You're right. I will be doing,
Fair enough.
I will do some YouTube videos on it too, because it's easier sometimes than writing it all down to just get in front of the camera. So I will.
Amen. Awesome. Looking forward to it. Well, why don't we kind of wrap things up, get to know Lottie a bit more. I'm just kind of curious. I've been asking people this. Besides herbalism, what is a random hobby of yours?
Oh, wow. Besides, okay, I make art collages. I love collage art. And every month in my planner, I make a collage to start the month off with. And like my vision board. Yes, vision boarding.
Yep.
I love making collage art. That's my thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'd like to go do more in art and do more that's not, work related, but yeah, making collages.
Is your middle initial a V?
Yes.
Okay. I was doing the math there. All right. Well, for the listener, it's on the YouTube channel. Lottie's got a collage art behind her, but awesome. Well, I'm going to try a new segment. I haven't done this, so you're the first person I'm doing this with. It's called the rapid fire round. And I'm going to be asking you just quick questions, and you can just give quick answers. We'll see how this goes.
Okay.
Who's one of your favorite singers or bands?
Jill Scott.
Nice. Are you introverted or extroverted?
Introvert with extrovert tendencies.
I like that. What's your spirit animal?
Dragonfly.
Favorite movie genre?
Oh, I don't really watch a lot of movies. Okay. Documentary.
Nice. Do you have any nicknames?
V.
I think we already know this, but if you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Yeah. It would be about Earthseed Detroit, actually. The whole evolution of an urban farm girl.
I love it. All right, last one. What's a plant you're currently enamored with?
Oh, that's tomatoes. I just want
that's
my
so
tomatoes
cool.
tomatoes to grow.
Was it on your Instagram page? I saw someone said add the green part of the tomato, like say the stem or the leaf to cooking to make
I just saw that too. And I was
really?
Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
And give it like a fresh flavor. Yeah.
I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The way they smell, but I was like, I thought you couldn't do that. Okay, I don't know.
That's funny. Awesome. Well, we'll wrap things up with the final question. This is also kind of a newer one. Also, I want to say, Lottie, I don't know if you knew this, but we're actually kind of live right now. We do have a HerbRally Schoolhouse member joining us right now. So shout out to David. Hi, David.
Hey,
thanks for joining us. If you have any questions for Lottie, feel free to leave them in the chat. Otherwise, so we're going to end this with, before we learn more about where to find you, why do you love being an herbalist?
Oh, well, like I said, herbalism saved my life. It gave me, I was empowered. It gave me answers to questions that I had about my body and health. But then developing the relationship with the land and beginning to really go out and see them grow, like it just, I don't know, it put me in a rhythm that I was missing before. And it helped me not have the background noise as my primary frame of reference all the time. Like, I just could tap into something more deep, meaningful. And that's my spirit. That's my spirituality. Like, I'm not a church person. My church is right outside. So it plays all those roles for me. It connected me to a deeper sense of self and spirituality for sure.
I love it. Thank you. So where can folks learn more about you and your work? Well,
as you have been so kind to mention, I am all over social media.
Yeah. Even TikTok.
I'm trying, man. I said I was going to do one more thing and then.
Yeah, totally.
But I am on TikTok. Everything is under Earthseed Detroit on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I have a Patreon if folks want to support. It's just really overall to support my work and see a little behind the scenes stuff, I do from time to time on Facebook, everywhere as Earthseed Detroit, and the website. So
I did want to actually plug your shop too. I don't know if you saw the order come through right before I ordered a hoodie. I actually saw these quite a while ago, I want to say, and I always love the design. So I'm excited to get the green Earthseed Detroit hoodie. So check those out. I'll leave a link to those as well. They're really pretty sweet. So
thank you so much for your order too. I saw that. I was like,
I was kind of like, shit, I wish I had it for the interview. I'd be rocking it right now, but
thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I'm stoked to get it. I needed a new hoodie anyway. So right on. Well, any closing thoughts, Lottie, before we wrap it up?
I've enjoyed this so much. I do want to drop in here in case folks wonder. Yes, Earthseed Detroit is named for Octavia Butler.
Oh.
And that informs pretty much everything I do. And I'm just so happy to spend time with you today. Again, thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I'm stoked to hang out in person here in about a month or so, and we'll kick it then. And thanks, Lottie, for joining me on the Herbalist Hour, and thanks, dear listener, for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thank you for doing what you do.
It's my pleasure, Lottie. Peace. See you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.